everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're so excited today to be talking with another one of our Hallmark actors. It's going to be so much fun. And today we have Adil Zaidi here. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so fun. And what we like to do, we start out talking to actors, is we like to find out what inspired you to get into this field.
Of course, Jurassic Park, hands down. No, it's something that when I was a kid, Jurassic Park definitely was a big factor because I was watching this movie. I used to love dinosaurs, and I was like, "There's a kid in this movie," and I was like, I could be a kid in a movie or something like that. Like I was watching these things. It was Jurassic Park and Power Rangers when I was a kid. People are like, what do you want to be when you're older? I'm like, obviously a Power Ranger. Like that's what I want to do. But I was born and raised in Switzerland. I grew up kind of really far away from any sort of entertainment industry. And so it wasn't until we moved to Canada and I grew up here that I was able to actually be like, I'm gonna give this a shot and I'm gonna go for it. But I would say definitely started with Jurassic Park 1.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I think Jurassic Park was a big reason that I got inspired to be a film critic. So I think we're very similar on that same thing. That was one of like a foundation movie for me.
Big time. I think so too. Yeah. There was, Jurassic Park, E.T., Back to the Future, a lot of the Spielberg stuff back then. And in general, just it was one of those things that you were like, yeah, I think I would enjoy living in that world, or I would enjoy playing make-believe. And so here we are.
And it still holds up. I think the original Jurassic Park, I'm not that big a fan of most of the sequels, but the awe and spectacle of it all is just still so effective.
Yeah, you can't
love
go wrong.
it.
I mean, John Williams doing the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
It's just it's an absolute masterpiece.
Well, and it's not just about the dinosaurs now that we're having a Jurassic Park podcast, but it's not that it's just about the dinosaurs. It's that it actually has really good characters who you understand their motivations and why they're doing what they're doing, and you feel for them even when they're being frustrating. It's just such a well-written movie.
Big time. And I mean, Laura Dern, Sam Neill, it's like these people, they knew what they were doing. They're all absolute stars. So
yeah, spare no expense.
Inspirations, that's where they come.
Yeah. Very cool. So when did you move from Switzerland to Canada?
I was 10, so it was around grade 5-ish. And we initially moved to Toronto. I spent a lot of time in Toronto, about 15 years. And then I moved myself out to Vancouver about 8 years ago, just for film. Like, the industry was nice. I liked the kind of projects that we're shooting here. I, at the time, was having a bit of trouble in Toronto, just like breaking out a little bit, like finding work and keeping it steady. I also, I love sci-fi. I love Star Wars. I love all these like sci-fi things, and Vancouver does a lot of those. They shoot a lot of those projects. So it was a matter of coming from, at about 10 years old, we moved to Toronto, and then eventually found myself to Vancouver.
Well, yeah, Vancouver is the Hollywood of the North, so
yeah, Canada's version of LA, I guess.
Yeah,
whatever they call it.
I know. I want to go one of these days. I've heard so much about it, and I've talked to so many
people. Don't come
people.
now, because this is Raincouver. This is just pure like 4 months of rain. But in the summer, if you have a chance, it's one of the most beautiful places there is.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun. One of these days, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely, you got it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
So did you do theater in high school and things like that?
So funny enough, no. Like I was a very shy kid. I didn't. It wasn't until like I did a lot of music. I was always around like arts and stuff. I was in like band. I played in a band, but I was also in like the band like orchestra band. And it was more so music in high school that I was like, oh, this is really fun. But between you and me, I was never really that good at it. It was just the artistic like need and desire of me, like wanting to do something with it. And then I think it was in when I, at the very end of high school, going into university, I was like, I've always wanted to do this. Why don't I just try it? Worst case scenario, I'm terrible at it, and I'll take the cue and grab a hint and walk myself out. Best case scenario, I can actually I don't know, maybe make something of it. And like I said, it was something that I always had passion about. And so it was right after high school. Went to university for a year, and I was like, you know what? None of this is for me. If I don't do this film thing that I've kind of always had this like desire to do now, when
Mhm.
am I ever going to do it? So
Yeah.
I started, and then I just kind of never looked back.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people forget about this whole idea of being a working actor. Like,
Hmm.
sure, yeah, being a movie star would be great. Let's not lie, but,
Can't all be
but
Brad Pitt.
there is
But
something to be said for the career that you can have,
of
pounding
course.
it out and being a working actor.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot. It's just like people forget it's just like any other kind of craft or trade or job, essentially. Like, you will have to work at it. You'll have to put in your time, put in your hours, and you got to treat it like a business. Which eventually
Yeah,
you learn either the easy way or the hard way, depending what your
yeah.
road looks like.
And it does take some luck, but you got to be ready for the luck. You got to
Mhm.
be working and ready for it to come.
The amount of teachers that have said luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
There you
Uh,
go.
and I live by it, like just be ready
Yeah.
because you never know.
Do you remember the first role on film that you ever got?
Yeah, it was the first like network TV role was a show called Cracked. It was a police procedural back in
Ooh.
Toronto. I think it went for like 2 seasons. And there's an actor by the name of Carlo Roda who's playing the guest star of that episode. He's in like 24 and a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I booked this like little tiny 2 scene part to play his son. He was like whatever, this big like criminal in the story, and I was his son, and it was like my first ever big thing. I was super excited about it. But that was the first network TV thing I ever got my hands on
Did you
back
have
in.
a like freak out moment when you got it?
I mean, when you're starting out and you're trying to figure it out, and someone tells you that you did get a job, there is validation. There's a
Yeah.
lot of like, there's a little like, oh, maybe I am doing something right. Maybe I am worth people's time or whatever. Like there is, of course, there is
Yeah.
a ton of joy that goes along with like, honestly, still, I would still think I haven't lost that joy. When I booked this
Mm-hmm.
Christmas movie, I was like, just
Yes.
you still get it.
That's good to hear. I feel like everybody should have that thing you do moment where you're like, ah,
Yeah, that
so
that
happy.
joie de vivre, that like that excitement, that
Mm-hmm.
that if you don't have that anymore, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you get jaded. Maybe people get jaded. I don't know what anyone else's story is. For me, it's just like I
Yeah.
I think I still maintain that like excitement to work every time I get a new
Mm-hmm.
job. I'm like, yes,
Yeah. Yeah,
get to do what you
definitely.
love. Get to.
Mm-hmm. So I think your first role for Hallmark was on Mingle All the Way. I think that was your first
Yeah,
movie you did
I
for
think so
them.
too. I think so too. I've kind of lost track because it's a crazy world, and it's a really really fun world. Mingle
Uh-huh.
All the Way is super fun. It was directed by one of my best friend's dad, Alan Harmon, who is a wonderful, kind of like my surrogate dad at that. But it
Mm-hmm.
was it was it was an exciting venture, and I didn't know what it was going to lead to, obviously. But yeah, it was fun, really fun.
Yeah, that movie had a great cast, really fun
Mhm,
group, it seems like.
mhm.
With Jen Lilly and Sandy and everybody. Uh
Exactly.
yeah.
Great, 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 like people to work with, great people outside of work. Sandy's super lovely too. Like she's doing really well at the moment. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was really fun. Good crew, good cast all over.
Yeah, she's come on our show a couple times and it's always one of those ones where like I have to be ready for like some deep conversations right now because she's so thoughtful and so great,
Yeah.
which I love.
Sandy's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think you've also interviewed a good handful of my friends. Like I was looking through your guys' Instagram page, and I'm like, these are all like very good friends of mine, all awesome
Yeah.
people.
Oh,
So
I feel very blessed, very blessed.
yeah.
I'm curious, what is the difference like when you are doing, like, say, a feature film versus doing one of these made for TV movies? Is I know that these are really fast and they're pretty stressful, but I
Yeah.
don't know. How is
Yeah.
that
There's
different?
there's obviously a lot of differences. I mean, on many levels of it, and I live more so in the TV movie world at the moment,
Hmm.
because a lot of that shoots in Vancouver, and we have the I guess luxury, the opportunity to work on many of those. Um, but there is a lot. I mean, there are times with these smaller movies that like sometimes they're pumping them out pretty quick. They're shooting them pretty quick. Like we shot this Christmas movie in like 3 weeks, um, and The thing is, there's a lot more opportunity to tweak the script, adjust the script, and of course, every movie, it's all individual. Every movie will have its own style. You know, some movies you'll go in and people will be like, "Hey, great, we're gonna like figure some stuff out on the fly. We're gonna do it right here." Some people like they do like prep beforehand to a movie to allow for relationships to build. What I've learned about these made for TV movies. First of all, not only are they fun because half the time you get to work with like either friends of yours or locals. Vancouver is a very small community.
Yeah.
We tend to like one of the first things I'm like, who else is cast on the movie? And I'm like, I'll be talking to my agent and she'll be like, oh, it's like this, and this person. I'm like, great, I get to go enjoy whatever a couple of weeks with a friend or with a couple of friends, and we get to make a movie. There is a tendency at times to like be able to adjust the script on the fly. They sometimes are a little looser with it. Some movies or some shows will be very rigid with the script. They'll be like, this is like word for word, this is how you got to say it. Otherwise, like they have a team of writers that have written it specifically like this for this reason. With these movies, sometimes we have the luxury of kind of riffing, ad-libbing, or doing some stuff on our own. And or we can every now and then we'll pitch an idea. Like there's a couple of scenes in this movie that we went and like pitched an idea to the director or something beforehand, and we were like, "Do you guys be cool if we, played around with it like this?" And they're like, "Yeah, that sounds great." It really depends on the project, but I think one of the most fun things with these made-for-TV movies is they all shoot locally, they hire locally. You get to work with crew and cast that you've probably worked with before. Any sort of feature film experience I've had is like big. Like they're just like, you're so tiny in the big mix of like what's happening around you all the time. With obviously much larger crews and much larger but both really fun, both in their own ways, exciting experiences.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
From the best-selling author of Hallmark's Heart's Landing series comes a heartwarming story of 4 friends.
These 4 women get a second chance at life, love, and happiness when they convert an aging beach house into a first-class inn and cafe.
Leigh Duncan's brand new Sugar Sand Beach series is the perfect escape for fans of Pamela Kelly, Rachel Hanna, and Debbie Maycomer.
Beginning with The Gift at Sugar Sand Inn, this is sweet women's fiction at its finest.
Escape to Sugar Sand Beach in this complete 5-book series, now available exclusively from Amazon and Kindle Unlimited.
For more information about Leigh, visit her website at leighduncan.com.
That's leighduncan.com.
With The Good Doctor. So you've been on, is it 3 seasons that you've been on?
Yeah, so
Good Doctor?
It actually worked out as a pretty funny. It's been about 3 seasons. Did like 4, I think, episodes in the first, 2 in the second, 1 in the third. And I actually just shot last week something in a quick something in the 5th season. It was a job I got as one of the nurses when they were trying to establish season 1, Nurse Jag Danoa, and he was like an ER/OR nurse at in like 1 episode, and then they were like, "Hey, do you want to come back?" And I was like, "Yep." And then they were like, "You want to come back?" I was like, "Yep." Then like next year they're like, "You want to come back?" I was like,
"You're like, just write it in. I'll come back."
I will always come back. That show gave me like one of my. It was kind of a nice launching platform for me. It was, everyone knew it was going to be a really big show. I had really big showrunners behind it, and now it just has become one of those things that I'm like, a good portion of the crew there are kind of, they're the same as the crew that have been around since season 1. So every once in a blue moon, they'll be like, "Hey, want to come back and play?" And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll jump back in.
Do you get to work with Fiona?
Okay, so Fiona, amazing human being. And I just missed, I was supposed to say hi to her. She was like getting her hair done when I was on set this past week, and then the timing was just too tough to stop by say hi. But I was there on Fiona's very first day in season 2.
Oh, nice.
And like instantly became friends. She has like part Swiss heritage as well.
Oh,
and
cool.
And we became friends. Obviously don't talk as much. It's tough with like the way life unfolds, and she's obviously super, super busy. But Fiona is like, she gets a solid 10 out of 10 gold star. She's a lovely human being.
Yeah,
Super
I've been able
lovely.
to interview her twice, and fairly recently. She's the light. She's wonderful.
Just an absolute beauty.
Yeah, and her character's kind of a little bit unlikable, so it's sort of funny to have her, because she's so nice.
What you call good acting.
Yeah.
There's nothing unlikable about Fiona, but probably a lot dislike about Morgan on that show.
Right. when you're doing one of these mysteries that you've done for Hallmark, do they give you like the whole script? Do you know?
Oh yeah.
So and when you read it, do you usually pick up the murderer, or you don't know?
What was the last one? Crossword Mysteries. When I read it, I actually couldn't quite pin who they were going for. I was reading it and I was like, is it me? Like, am I the one? Am I the one that they didn't tell me? Did I kill him? And I got to the end and I was like, oh, okay, that's creative. That's cool. I like the little red herring. And then I proceeded to prep my character as if I was guilty as anything else. I was just like, I'm gonna give every reason for anybody watching to like dislike me and want to peg me for the job. And I was like, it was fun after I read some of like the comments on some of the podcasts, and I was like, I think people bought the bait. Some people bought the bait.
Oh yeah, you were the contestant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they were like,
they kind of run together sometimes.
They do. There's a lot of them. They do a lot of them, but they're really good.
But yeah, you were sort of a corrupt contestant on the game show.
I had insider information as I was going, but it was for the ratings of the show. The show needed ratings. I was a ratings factor, and we just finessed a couple of things. It wasn't morally correct, but that was that's what kind of drove the story to be like, maybe he has something to do with it, because he's definitely not clean.
Because it ended up being the editor, right?
It ended up being the guy you least expected. Yeah, the guy in the editing booth. But he had his motives. He had his like reasons, which is what I like. They always write. They always write a reasonable a motive behind it, which I'm like, thank you, because otherwise I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah,
I like that one. That was a fun one, and it was fairly reasonable for her to be involved. Because that's the hard part about that series, is how do you get a crosswords writer to be involved in mysteries? But because she was on the game show, it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it kind of had like, you usually take two stances, right? They take an emotional stance, and then they'll take maybe a work oriented stance, where it's like, okay, because she works there and she's presenting the thing, she's there, but then her like, and this guy that like they have had romantic thing, he's also there, and now there's just a giant, there's a convoluted storyline to follow. But
that one had Lane Edwards as the host, and he's one of my favorite people. He's hilarious.
Lane is amazing. Lane, that's a perfect example of how small this industry is and how you get to work with some of your very good friends. Because I've known Lane for quite a while, and like, he's, again, great person, tons of fun. He was actually probably the first call I made after I found out I booked the job and he was on it. I was like, we had the same agent, that's why.
Okay.
And so he my agent told me, and instantly I'm like, okay, I gotta hang up, I gotta call Lane. And I called him right away, and I was like, yo bro, guess what, we're gonna be spending quite some time together. So we carpooled the set. It's
nice,
tons of fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you were also on You're Baking Me Crazy. Did they have like a lot of food on that set?
Yes. By far one of the best titles I've ever enjoyed, any job I've ever had. I saw the even when I got the audition, I was like, I want this.
It went a long way with that title. Like, really. Because a lot of times the Hallmark titles have nothing to do with the film at all. It'll be like A Christmas Memory, and you're like, what is
and there's no
title?
memory.
Yeah, there's no memory, there's no nothing.
No. Bacon Me Crazy was actually also Alan Harmon was the Mingle All the Way, same director on both. So like I said, it's such a pleasure when you get to like work with these people over and over again. You develop relationships.
But it probably actually should have been called like something with persimmons, because they really didn't talk about bacon very much.
No, it was just
all these persimmons.
There was, but if they called it
Persimmon Crazy, it doesn't
persimmons all the way or something. It just
doesn't have quite the ring.
You needed to deviate the attention and put it towards the bacon truck, because that was the antagonist. He came in and everyone was like, what's this bacon guy doing?
Yeah.
and it became a whole thing. So I think and plus, if you haven't noticed, Hallmark loves puns on their titles.
Yeah.
They're big fans of that. So
Yeah.
I think it rang so well. And after
as am I'm a big fan of the puns as well. So
love puns. I got a friend that brings off puns like it's nobody's business, and so I don't even compete anymore. But I do love a good pun. Yeah, it was again great.
So you've been in 2 wedding movies fairly recently, and I don't know your relationship status, but what's that like to be in wedding movies?
Single, and I just get to enjoy it all. I get to be whoever I want in these movies.
That's good.
No, they're really fun. Obviously, when you're doing a wedding movie, like especially when it's a Hallmark wedding movie, everything is upbeat. There's obviously the problems that they face are all going to be about scheduling, and they're all going to be about like, oh no, this unexpected thing came up, much like real life when people are trying, like, at this point in my life, a lot of my friends are married, and so having to go through the wedding process, you're like, no one who's ever been through it will tell you it's smooth sailing. Like, there will be problems arising left, right, and center all the time. So to do that in a dramatic fashion, obviously like a cinematic fashion, it's exciting, it's fun, because it's just, you get these scenes and you're like, but this is happening, and they're like, oh no, what are we gonna do about that?
I always felt like they should use the fake weddings as like some kind of sweepstakes of like, once we're finished, it's all there, you can have your wedding.
Honestly, the amount of people that probably would love a Hallmark style wedding, they're beautiful. Like when they set up, there's always one big shot in every wedding movie, which is obviously the wedding. Like when it comes down to it, these sets, like we show up as cast, and we're like, this is insane. Like
that wedding March 6th wedding was gorgeous,
insane. Like I can't even describe. There's pictures of us because all the rest of the cast, while Josie and Jack were getting married, the rest of us were all just like sitting front row. Right. And we're like, we're awestruck, and none of it is acting. We're just like, this is beautiful. This is gorgeous.
That's what I'm saying. They should get like a couple, maybe like a military couple or somebody like that. Be like, here, get married for real after we're finished filming.
Big time. And I think in that movie, they did a little sweepstakes for Josie's dress, if I'm not wrong. I think they kind of like not auctioned it, but they did like a raffle or something.
And we were all so grateful because it's been 6 movies. It's like, get married, you crazy kids. What's going on?
You weren't the only one. It was the most common thread on the internet was like, when are these two getting married?
And especially, I think it was the 3rd one that he gives her a promise ring, and I just about died. I'm like, you're a grown human. Like, what are you doing?
A grown Hallmark human, very different. Like very. There's a lot of childish motives and not childish, youthful motives. In Hallmark. That's a good youthful motives in Hallmark, and things like promise rings, and it was bound to happen. It was due to happen. A lot of people wanted it to happen. A lot of us also just considered ourselves lucky to be cast in the one where it did happen.
Yeah, for sure.
We enjoyed. There was 2 weddings in that movie.
Yeah, that's true.
That was planned, and then there was the wedding. There was the wedding.
Yeah, they tried to make it seem like they weren't going to have the wedding, and I was getting anxious. I'm like, they're not going to do a wedding March 7.
Wedding March 7. Like, we're done. We're done.
I'm like, there can't be more wedding March movies than Star Wars movies. I refuse.
My feet hurt from marching. We're done. No, it was an amazing experience because that entire movie, it was like the little group outside of Jack and Josie, we all kind of knew each other. Like I knew Chelsea and Nate. I'd worked with Nate before. Chelsea I'd been friends with for a while. We all got to meet Josie and Jack, like, on day one. They took us under their wing. The 2 are such veterans, like such professionals. I think not a single one of us didn't walk away from that not having learned something. That was a triple negative. We all walked away.
I got it. I follow you.
Learning, regardless of how many movies we've done or what we've accomplished, it's like there's always something to learn with someone with like 30, 40 years of experience, whatever, 30 years of experience under his belt. I'm like, Jack, whatever you say, I will do whatever you say.
You're like taking notes now.
Seriously, like he'd be like, yeah, I think we should do the scene this way. I'm like, absolutely. Why would
I always
ever
figured
argue?
those movies are fun, like at that inn where they're filmed and everything.
Yeah, exactly with the movie that we'll talk. This Christmas movie, that Wedding March was also shot on location in Harrison Hot Springs, in Vancouver. It's a couple hours out of the city. Like, you're telling me go live there and shoot a movie? It's beautiful. It's the area is beautiful. It just added the locations were so lovely. We were there. We were supposed to be on like a reunion tour to visit. So when you see us having these like awestruck moments about the environment and the nature and the beauty, they're all real. They're all like, we're just like, this is beautiful. We got very lucky with the location on that one for sure.
Well, we were all grateful for Roadhouse Romance this fall because it was the only fall movie that we really got from Hallmark. They said Fall Harvest, but it was the only one that was like ridiculously clad with leaves and things like that, which I was a huge fan of.
That deck on that was a lot of yellow and red leaves and a lot of bales of hay and a lot of like, fall was a big prominent part of the decor there.
Yeah, never has an auto repair shop been so festive. Which I'm a big fan of.
God, a repair shop.
That's great.
Like another fun. That's again, there's obviously a trend in all the Hallmark movies you're bringing up. They're just fun. They're really fun to work on. Really fun to do. That one was with Lauren Elena, who, again, incredible human being and phenomenal artist. Like her music, I still listen to her music all the time. Like very much a part of my playlist. Really fun and a nice fall treat for anyone that was looking for the,
we needed it. We had none. It was the only option for fall. So it was good.
And I just always wanted to, I love country music as a staple. And so when that offer, I got the call from my agent for that movie, I was like, you're telling me I get to live in like a country world for make believe? This is so exciting. I was so excited.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
And Tyler is great. Love him.
Tyler's so cool too. Yeah. Obviously from, Letterkenny, which is where I'd seen him beforehand. When we got on set, we had like one main scene together. Most of my scenes were with Lauren in that movie, but with Tyler, like when we did, he's such a pro. Like he's done this so many times. There was like, the scene that we went in, we'd like work it. He'd be like, hey, I had this idea. Let's like, maybe if we cut this portion or whatever. It was like, it's just fun to work with people that have that much experience and that much like ability to maneuver a script. Cause you're like, I didn't even think of that. That's a genius idea.
Well, and I interviewed him before his first Hallmark movie ever aired.
Oh, really?
And so I was like, I don't know if this guy's going to be able to, if it's going to work because he just had such a different vibe about him than the rest of the Hallmark leads. And then I saw the movie and I was like, he was super nice. It was just, is this style going to work? And boy, did it ever.
Yeah, he definitely like, that guy has range like nobody's business. Like he's done super gritty stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always, you're always wondering when you transfer that kind of an actor over to Hallmark, whether it'll fit the style or whatever. But the dude is so genuine and the bottom line is, I think with acting in general, once you land this like genuine authenticity about yourself, and you can just showcase that and display that, real is real.
And he has a confidence about him that I think is very sexy and works really well.
Also intimidating sometimes when you're on.
Sure.
Like, damn, he's confident.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right, well, let's talk about the new movie. Very exciting. Christmas Together with You.
Yeah.
And this has a great cast. Another phenomenal cast. Laura Vandervoort, Niall Mater. Really fun.
I got nothing but love stories for those two coming for you if you want to hear them. But they're two great cast, great crew as well. Like it was there's a good handful of the crew on this one that I had worked with a couple times on other Hallmark movies, which is again amazing because they like the crew helps you out so much. You know, sometimes like people are too busy to do anything and you're like, am I on the right mark? Is this angle good? And I'll just lean over to the camera guy who I've worked with like so many times. And I'm like, Andy, is it good? And he's like, it looks great. And I'm like, perfect. You build this chemistry with crew, which is not often, you know, it's sometimes forgotten, but it is a lovely relationship to have. As far as cast goes, Niall is a person like, Niall is someone who I'd heard of. He's friends with a lot of my friends. But he was a person that I had never really met, but I had heard so much about and all good things about. So when we got there and I met Niall, I was like, yo, Niall, you know all my friends. I know all your friends. We've just never met. We walked in complete strangers, but we walked out like some of the like such tight friends. Like he became a really, really good friend. You know, we'll have dinner every now and then and whatnot, but it's just tons of love for him.
No, so nice. In fact, so when I interviewed him, I wrote down phonetically, as I try to do, everybody's names, and for some reason I was nervous. I usually don't get that nervous, but I was nervous, and I had literally just asked him like 2 minutes before how to pronounce his name, and then we get on recording. I'm like, "Hi, here's Niall Matter."
Neil Matter. Neil Matter. Trust me,
he couldn't have been nicer.
You're far from the only one that makes that mistake. I actually didn't know off the bat either. I was like, Matter, but I picked it up quick. I made him say his name at one point. I was like, yeah, you know your name too, Niall Mater. Absolutely, Niall Mater.
Yeah, he's like, do you want to re-record? Turn it off.
Truly a lot of love for that dude. He's incredibly lovely.
Well, tell us a little bit about this movie. What is it?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll tell you, I have a really good Laura story. You want to hear the Laura story? And then we'll go to the movie. The Laura story is amazing because this job, this like the work relationship, I would say was about 12 years in the making. Here's a little insider info. Me and Laura went to the same high school in North York, Ontario, way back when. We weren't in high school at the same time. She was done. I was like almost done. And it was at about the time when I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this acting thing, I got to do it now. And I was kind of figuring it out in that part of my life. Meanwhile, Laura was like on Disney Channel. Laura was the girl that came out of North York, Ontario, out of like our little Bayview area suburb. Like she was the girl. It was Supergirl on Smallville. She was a girl.
Yeah, Disney Channel.
So me being like, you know, this newish, trying to figure it out, trying to like lay my groundwork down, trying to do whatever, like knowing that Laura had gone to, like we went to the same high school. We had this, like, we lived in the same area. I was like, if this girl can break it out of this tiny thing, maybe I can do some sort of damage. I found a way to reach out to her. I'd run into her somewhere through like a function, whatever. And, I asked her at that time, this was market like 12, 13 years ago. And I had asked her, I was like, hey, you know, like, you don't know me, whatever. I just like, we were in York Mills together. Would you mind if I like throw you a couple questions, like just about like studying and where to go, maybe a little bit of advice, as anyone does when they're starting out. You know, now I'll get messages like that on Instagram of like, hey, I'm starting out. Do you have any advice? Laura replies, and this will tell you exactly the kind of person she is. Laura replies with like, she had no obligation to do this. I was just like at the time random person. She replies with like an essay and an email detailing her like experiences, her like what she did, what worked, what didn't work, what any sort of advice, any encouragement. It was like, I held on to that for like 5 years as a blueprint of like what to do, where to go. Like she mentioned I think a school or two that she studied at, and I was like, okay, cool. all of that was like such a monumental part. 5 years later, I'm in Vancouver, I'm doing this, forget all this. It's been now 12, 13 years. And in my mind, I'm like, one day I'm going to get a job with this girl. And I'm going to let her know that she had this giant impact on my career when I was starting out. And I was like, yeah, I don't know when it'll happen. I think she had eventually moved back somewhat, like either to LA or Toronto, or she moves around. And I'm like, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Fast forward, like I said, 12, 13 years. I get this call like a couple months ago before whatever it was doing the movie. And my agent's like, yeah, you got this, we got this offer for this Christmas movie. I was like, great. Love to do a Christmas movie every year if I can get it under my belt. I love Christmas. And I was like, who, like I do with everyone, like I did with Lane. I was like, who, is there anybody else locked in, like cast wise? And she's like, yeah. Nal Mader is playing one of the leads. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Heard of him. I'm excited to work with him. And then she's like, and Laura Vandervoort is doing the female lead. And I was like, who, wait, what? What did you say Laura Vandervoort?
Yeah.
After 13 years waiting to get a job with this girl, to just tell her, literally just to tell her, thanks for the impact you had. And again, like I said, says a lot about the kind of person she is, always there to help out. Like, she hasn't changed. That's exactly who she is today. We worked, we became very good friends. Now she's she's one of my good friends I talk to here and there. But it was a really fun experience to kind of like complete the circle on that.
It's a great story.
Don't get to do that often, but it was a story that was very much in the making for quite a while.
Yeah, you're like, excuse me while I mute the phone so I can freak out a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, when I'm with my agent, I didn't even mute the phone. I just like yelled, and she's like, what's up? And I was like, are you sitting down? I got to start.
That is great. I love that. So did she remember you?
She had no idea who I was off the bat. She came to my trailer on my first day. Again, we'll show you how lovely she is, because she made a point. She like came to you don't do that. You meet on set, that's the etiquette, whatever. But she came and she's like, hey, my name's Laura. And I'm like, Laura, take a seat. I have a quick story for you. And then when I told her, she's like, you're going to make me cry. Like, this is, she's like, can I give you a hug? I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. You've had a giant impact on my life. And it just made for, again, the entire movie was so much fun to shoot after that. Cause on one hand I had Niall, who we had like a kind of 6 degrees of separation type thing. So we got along amazingly. And then Laura, we had the story, and the three of us bonded. Like it was, and then of course you had Harry as well, who's a legend. And so the tiny group that we had all bonded really well. It made the work experience so much fun. We were out in Vernon, BC, which is about 6 hours out of Vancouver. So we were out there for 3 weeks. And whenever you're on location, it's like, you don't know anyone. So you're like, hey, Niall, you want to go work out?
Right.
Like that's all we did. It's like, Laura, you want to go to Booster Juice? I don't know. Like,
well, especially that must be especially nice when you're having all these COVID restrictions and quarantines and stuff like that. If you have some basis of kind of bonding, since you're not able to be as close as you would otherwise be.
Absolutely. It's part of as part of the benefit of shooting on location and being in a hotel together, is like, and not knowing anyone else. So we couldn't really go out and do anything. We're in 6 hours away from home. No one knows anyone. But we had ourselves, and we had this hotel, and it was easy to kind of just stay isolated within our group and keep to ourselves. All the protocols on set nowadays are so rigid and so strict too. So it keeps everyone safe. It keeps everyone, and it keeps the show going, which is important.
That's great. Yeah. Working with Harry Lennox, that must've been amazing.
Whew. Yeah. I had one day again, we were up there for 3 weeks. There was one day where we both finished kind of earlier than everyone else. And he's like, you want to grab some food? I'm like, do I want to grab some food? Absolutely. I want to grab some food. And we sat and we talked, and just like, the dude is such outside of the obvious that you would already know, kind, generous with his time, and just a lovely human being, is also so, like, his veteran experience, the stuff he talks about, and like the things he's done, and the people that he knows at times. And you're like, this is nuts. Like
Yeah.
I feel privileged just to be able to like be here and absorb all this information as a young actor, just trying to like, after 13, 14 years, still trying to figure his way out. When you run into veterans like that, it was the same, like I said, same thing with Jack and Josie. It's just these people that have done so much and they're so good that you'd be silly not to like listen.
Yeah.
You'd be silly not to like absorb as much as you can while you're around them.
Yeah, you're like, that's Martian Manhunter right there.
Yeah. Oh, amongst like Blacklist and just, a billion other things.
That's great. That's
yeah.
really good. And so it's like a road trip kind of movie, is what I'm hearing.
This movie, well, it's not as much of a road trip movie because Hallmark has made some road trip movies. It's not necessarily a road trip movie. They are on a road trip. They do end up at the chalet, at this like chalet that me and Niall run. I play his best friend, his like childhood friend. We're trying to figure out this like chalet. He's in typical Hallmark fashion, overburdened with work, big city work, and then, he comes back and his family's like, God, you gotta come back and help. You gotta help us do the stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm trying. I got this big city job. And eventually, without giving too much away, the two have a meet cute.
Yeah.
It obviously has its bumps in the road, which if you're a Hallmark fan, you're very familiar with. The best friend swoops in and does what the best friend does, and it makes for a very cute little story.
You gotta love the businessman reformed, the bad man of business that learns his ways.
It is a textbook character type in the Hallmark world, but it's a fun one. It lets you, because it's become such. I mean, it's such a cliche. It's such an archetype that they use so much. It's now just become like, obviously I'm from the big city. Obviously that's the angle we're taking.
I mean, any trope can be done poorly, but for the most part, we love the tropes. That's why we enjoy these movies.
That's why people find comfort in familiarity, and there is, take any franchise, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, like dinosaurs, lightsabers. People love tropes. People love themes. People love story congruency that you can match from movie to movie. There's a sense of comfort in it, and then you get to just enjoy it. So it does work. They have built this empire on something. It does work.
Because the tropes help us immediately bond with the characters, because these movies are only about 82 minutes. So you have to bond with the characters quickly. And that's why you need the tropes that you can just boom, you know exactly who this character is, you know what's going to happen, and then you're just along for the ride.
Exactly. And it also helps now that you get to look at a lot of the actors that you've seen in other movies or whatever, and you'll be like, you'll see familiar faces, so you'll kind of feel like you know them a little bit, or you've seen them go through other stuff in one way or another. Yes, this is a different character, but there's still some familiarity with them, which is something I never quite understood until doing a good handful of these and having like, talking to people like you, and then being like, oh, you can backtrack through some of the movies I did, and there is a certain similarity to all the characters I play on these Hallmark movies. They are all, for the most part, the supportive best friend that's there that fixes stuff. There's always a quirk about them. There's always something different, but you get to familiarize yourself with a certain style, and then it becomes then like you said, you're along for the ride at that point. Yeah,
and it's all about the witty banter and the chemistry and the other things. So this sounds like a lot of fun, and I love Kevin Fair. He's done so many good movies.
Beauty. Kevin Fair. So we were in Vernon, like I mentioned, we're all stuck there with nobody. It was me, Niall, and Kevin. We'd go work out. We'd go to the little hotel gym whenever we found a moment or whatever. So it's like we all spent a bunch of time together. It was really, really fun. I have a lot of love for Kevin. He's done a good handful. I haven't this was my first time working with him, but I'd like read for a lot of his other projects too. And he does well. He's really good. He's a good guy.
Should watch The Sign Seal Delivered. It's such a good series. It's good binge. And
it's auditioned for that series. And I do know that it has a massive fan base, that series of movies.
I think you'd like it. It's really good.
I'll go give it a binge. Holiday season, I got a lot of time.
That's right. All right. So we like to end with some fun, silly questions.
Love
And this is the holiday edition. So if you come on our show again, we'll give you the non-holiday.
I love
But here we go. What is your favorite holiday drink?
Apple cider. Hard
Very
apple
good.
cider. Yeah.
Okay.
Mulled wine if I get around to it, but I have like an affinity for mulled cider is so good.
I love it too. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
I'm Swiss, so we have a very, very specific cookie. It's called Zimster, and it's like a star. It's an almond cookie that's shaped in a star, and they have like a glaze on it. I should like show you a picture at some point. But they like every Christmas they pump them out in Switzerland, and that, if you're asking for a niche answer, that's the one.
Sounds good. Is it chocolate or regular?
It's an almond. It's like mainly
almond.
almond. That's like, I'm literally gonna pull up a picture of it for you. But it's a literal almond cookie. It's just like the main ingredient is almond, and
it sounds good.
In stars. There we go.
Let me see. I can't see it.
They're shaped like that.
Oh, with like powdered sugar on top.
There we go. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, yum.
That is the prototypical.
There's like a glaze.
Like a glaze. It is the prototypical Swiss Christmas cookie, and that's mine.
Sounds
I still
good.
try to like get friends to ship it in to me from all the way out here. So.
All right. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
I love anything Nat King Cole does. It's so tough because we alternate. I'm going to give you an album. I'm going to give you the Nat King Cole Christmas song album, because that, from start to finish, gets played in my household every single Christmas, almost every other day.
Yeah.
There's too many.
Yeah.
Oh, Tannenbaum.
Chestnuts roasting. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, Tannenbaum.
What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Ooh. How many people say Die Hard to this?
More than you guess.
More than honestly. I go through the gamut of Home Alone, Die Hard. Elf is a must watch every single year. But you know what? I'll give you the two that never leave the Christmas ritual. Me and my best friends will do It's a Wonderful Life, which I think is number one for me. Like that probably is the top. And then the second one is the Christmas Carol, but with the Alistair Sim version.
Yeah, those are, you can't get better than those two. I approve.
There's not a Christmas that goes by without those two movies and the Nat King Cole album. So
you're living a good life. I love those.
I love Christmas. So I go pretty big and pretty like I'll knock off all traditions as much as possible every Christmas.
That's great. Which do you prefer, Scrooge or the Grinch? You maybe just answered that with your
Scrooge.
Yeah.
I think Scrooge is one of the most complex, better like characters. Love the Grinch by all means. And the Grinch, misunderstood. I'm just gonna say it. Misunderstood. Because people think it's all born out of hate, and it's not.
I mean, I do agree. If people were making loud noises like the Who's and Whoville are making, I would be very irritated.
Have you tried not sleeping on a day where you might have to wake up the next day?
It's bad.
The neighbors are causing a racket.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. How could you blame him? And
I don't know why he has to take the last can of Who hash. I think that's going a little too far, but still, I would be really mad if people were it's so hard for me to get to sleep as a chronic insomniac that if people were keeping me awake.
I know the feeling from time to time. Trust me. The thing is, misunderstood, and when it comes down to it, people do irrational things when they're sleep deprived. So how can you blame them?
I think that they showed that that being sleep deprived is like very similar your brain to like being on drugs and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, psychologically speaking, your chemicals aren't producing in a way that they should, and so therefore it will affect the way you think and your everything from motor functions. It'll get deep. I'm pulling a Sandy on you now. We're going, but it does. Of course, it does. Scrooge, though, not to get away from Christmas, Scrooge, I think is one of the better written characters throughout all of film. Like I think, like in terms of the arc that there's a reason that Christmas Carol like story has gone through so many iterations and has stood the test of time, is because it has a perfect structure to the movie. It has a perfect character arc to the movie. And for someone to be that evil to that awakened from start to finish in a movie, it's like, it's the story of Christmas. It's the story of Christmas, in my opinion.
Yeah, because people want to believe in lost causes. They want to believe that even somebody like Scrooge could be redeemed.
Absolutely.
And that's why it remains relevant. Even, it was written in the, comes all the way from the 19th century, to being in movies today. It's just that whole theme is just a very resonant theme, no matter any era.
Redemption at Christmas time will always be, redemption, redeemer. It will always be a theme that lives on regardless. In that scenario, it also is one of those things, because think about what everyone goes into December with. November and October, November, yet the weather gets dark. People get antsy and grumpy. It's like the year is ending. There's a lot of work stuff that sometimes takes up people's time, and so people don't always go into December with the best of attitudes. But then December and Christmas time, it changes everyone's year around. You can't.
I was thinking about that the other day, that if you didn't have, because here after it snows, like the first snow is really beautiful. I'm in Utah. The first snow is really beautiful. And then very quickly it becomes very gray and gross and cold. And if you didn't have Christmas, and for me, my birthday's in January, so that also helps.
There you go.
But if you didn't have that, it would be so hard. I mean, whew.
It's
agreed.
And you could say the same thing about Vancouver. Vancouver dips into between the months of like November and February. We do actually get snow now, more so, but in like December, January, but that period of like 4 months is gray and rain. That's it. That's all that exists. So to have Christmas at the end of the year, where normally people are going into the month of December with work obligations and the weight of the year on them and whatnot, and then you have this redemption opportunity at the end of the month to let everything go, refresh. I think it is one of my favorite holidays for a reason. It is always surrounded. The nature of Christmas is joy. The nature of Christmas isn't gift giving. I understand that is a very big part, but the nature of Christmas is a rebirth, a redemption, and joy that comes along with that.
Yeah, I think we need to get you more Hallmark movies, because you're totally speaking my language. I love it.
I'm here, and they'll come.
Okay, good.
I'm positive.
Okay.
It's a very good network, and I've having worked with them for a good portion of time. There's a lot of faces now that I've run into over and over again.
I love it.
And I do believe we have a very good relationship on that front. So yeah, I'd be mind blown if I wasn't doing some more Hallmark in the community.
Well, what do you like better, clear lights or colored?
Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna go clear lights. I know people love colored lights.
Yeah.
Clear. You know why? I like to make my colors in the ornaments. I like to whenever I put colored lights on trees, the ornaments kind of get lost. I like the clear light, and then I like to the color comes for me in the ornaments or whatever I decide to hang or whatever I decide to put. Clear lights.
I agree. That's my choice as well. All right. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Snowball fight. I probably was in more snowball fights than snowman building, even though I did a lot of both. I think the biggest team building I learned was in snowball fights.
Very good.
But I'm a boy who hangs out with a bunch of boys, and we're in grade 5 throwing snowballs at each other.
Okay. Would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
Oh, excellent. That's 100%. I'm a better gift wrapper than a gift chooser. Although I am a good gift chooser. My gift wrapping, I'm just very OCD. It has sometimes I over wrap. Like, you ever done that? You ever over wrapped? Like, I'm like taping every corner, and then when people go to open it, they're like, I can't even open this. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
I'm definitely a better rapper.
Someday when you propose to you're gonna be like, there's several layers, keep going.
Yeah, I just kind of kept going. I don't know what irrational fear I have that this gift will just open itself up by accident, but the amount of tape I go through, like every corner, every seal, it's got to be perfect and measured. And it takes me a while. There's usually a full day with mulled cider, mulled wine, and a gift wrapping station, usually on the 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah. Well, that's like my dad. He always, well, really, it's more like the 24th. He like goes to Staples and like just gets the most random stuff.
Oh,
like, yeah. We'll have like, he's given us like things of paper before, or like one time he gave me like 9 different bottles of hot sauce. And
I love hot sauce, so that would be a perfect gift for me. I love
like, wow, that's intense. So last question, do you have an ugly Christmas sweater, and what's your ugly Christmas sweater?
I have to renew my ugly Christmas sweater because I have a dress shirt with candy canes, and that's my go-to. It's a dress shirt that has a bunch of candy canes, and then I have a Homer Simpson Christmas tie, which is Homer Simpson wearing a Christmas hat, and he just goes do ho ho on the tie, and I have. It's my favorite tie. It's my favorite shirt. I put that combination together and I wear that to so many Christmas parties. But like recently there's been online shopping has exploded in the last year. So much like most people during the pandemic, I'm buying countless things online, and whatever these algorithms are now they're putting all these Christmas sweaters in my feed. And I'm like, I want them. I want all of them. So I might have a problem this year. I don't really know, but
you got to look for like a buy one get one.
That would be buy one get 8. Whatever you got, I will take. But I foresee a splurge coming in form of a Christmas sweater, kind of a buying spree. I think I'm gonna be renewing that collection pretty soon. I have a bunch of Christmas socks, so I like socks.
Well, you did it. You answered all the questions. Congratulations.
We made it. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for Christmas.
Me too. Clearly.
And this movie, I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. You were a delight, very fun, and we'll definitely have to have you on back. It was great.
I'll be back, you guys. I like I said, I looked through your page. You have talked to so many of my friends, and so I was like, hey, how's this podcast? Everyone has good things to say about you guys, so I'm excited. I'll be back. You let me know when you want to chat.
Well, do you have social media you want to share?
I do. Adil Zaidi, ADILZAIDI is my Instagram. That's usually where I post almost everything in terms of any projects coming up or whatever. I would say follow that. That would be a primary source. Other than that, we are enjoying the holidays and a much needed break after this, honestly, pretty busy year.
Good. I'm glad you've been kept busy. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. All the information is in the description. And thank you so much, Adil. This was really fun. And Merry Christmas.
I love it. I love your background, and I love the hat.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Merry Christmas.